Please pray with me. May these words that I speak be grounded in my soul, encouraged by the God presence in me, and may these words that you hear be captured by your soul, enlivened by the God presence in you. Amen. There were 37 or so of us that gathered at Okanagan Centre Hall yesterday for our second congregational. It was a time for sharing story, song, and of course, great food. With considerable reflection and conversation about what we value about this church community. And all of this was focused around one very specific question. Why? Why is this community important to us? Why do we worship the way we do? Why do we engage in pastoral care and outreach? Why study and pray? Why run a thrift shop? Why? Now, on the surface, this may seem like a simple thing to ask, but what we discovered with the help of Simon Sinek and his Golden Circle, that was a TED Talk that we watched, with that help, what we discovered is that people and institutions seldom ask why. We tend to focus on what we do and how we do it, and rarely, if ever, ask the really important question of why do we do what we do? Simon believes, and I agree, that real success, and of course he's coming from a business model, but it fits perfectly with a faith community. He says that real success only comes to those who understand why they do what they do. In other words, they operate from a clear set of values or beliefs, and it is from that place that they then determine what it is they need to do and how they need to do it. By the end of the day, most of us realized that we had a considerable amount of work to do as a community around asking why. And it is critical work, because if we just keep on doing without taking the time to ask ourselves, why is this important? And what are the values that we are embracing? Then we could end up losing our passion, perhaps even our dream. So King had a dream, not a plan. And Simon Sinek pointed out that it was the dream that captured people. A dream that they could own themselves. And that's why 250,000 gathered on that particular day. You see, the plan is what we do and how we do it. But the dream is why we do it. I'm saying this because the Jesus that we meet in Mark's Gospel is a man with a dream, not a plan. He wouldn't have wandered the way he did if he had a plan. But he had a really clear dream. And nowhere is that more obvious than in the stories we heard read today. At the center of each encounter, and there were 4 of them, at the center of each encounter, Jesus asks, why? First, we meet Levi, the tax collector, another one of the many outsiders in that culture according to the law. People you didn't associate with, you didn't even talk to. If Jesus had engaged his world from a place of what and how, he would have looked at the laws about association with tax collectors and have chosen another dinner party. But Jesus says, why would I shun any other human being? Why, if I say my core belief, my core value is compassion and justice, would I make that choice? From a place of why, Jesus breaks the law. Then Jesus is challenged because he doesn't fast according to the law. The Pharisees made their fasting very, very public. As a way, they would actually wear makeup to look gaunt. And that's a fact. As a way of showing how righteous they were in the eyes of God. But Jesus says, why would I or my followers fast? Why, if my core value, if my core belief is that relationship with God is a private and personal thing, why would I choose to fast publicly? Again, Jesus challenges the laws. And then we have two incidents where Jesus works on the Sabbath. And the laws were clear that nothing resembling work was to be done on the Sabbath day. But Jesus says, why would I go hungry? Or worse, why would I see someone needing help and not respond? Why, if my core value, if my core belief is to honor human life, then why would I choose to do something life-taking rather than life-giving? And Jesus not only breaks the laws this time, but then chastises the Pharisees by saying that the Sabbath was made for humankind, not humankind for the Sabbath. For Jesus, humanity trumps religious law every single time. The Pharisees had, as I told the children, 613 commandments, and they took pride in observing them all. And frankly, they could because that's all they did. They believed it gave them honor in the eyes of God and their community, especially since it was so easy for them to catch the common folk breaking commandments on a regular basis. How could you ever even keep in your head 613 rules? But Jesus, operating from his core values that caused him to ask why before adhering to a law, presented a serious challenge to the system that gave power to the priests and control over the masses. Just imagine trying to adhere to 613 commandments. Most of us can barely manage 10. And it reminds me of a story. After many years, a young Jewish Talmud student who had left the old country for Canada returns to visit the family. And as he arrives, his mother says, but where is your beard? Mama, he replies, in Canada, nobody wears a beard. But at least you keep the Sabbath. Mama, business is business. In Canada, everybody works on the Sabbath. But kosher food you still eat. Mama, in Canada, it is very difficult to keep kosher. The old woman ponders this information and then heads out of the room. Mama, don't be upset. She turns back to her son and says, upset? No, I'm going to pack a bag and come with you. For people struggling to live under the weight of 613 commandments, Jesus was a breath of fresh air. A breath of fresh air. And I don't mean any disrespect to the Jewish community, because we have our own set of rules. It's just that we're talking about Mark here. So I could have used the rules that we follow too. What I find so intriguing, however, is how Jesus got away with countless public acts of shaming those in positions of power. Why would it take between 1 and 3 years, because we're not certain how long his mission lasted, but how would it take that long until he was finally killed? In a society that readily stoned people on the spot or imprisoned them for any act of shaming of a person in power. The real clue comes later in Mark, when he talks about Jesus heading to Jerusalem, and people were following him in awe and amazement. But we get a little clue of that in chapter 1, when he first goes into the synagogue and people are awed by his teaching. Jesus was, I believe, and I've used this term before, a numinous presence. Numinous presence. This is an expression that comes from a German theologian and scholar named Rudolf Otto. And he says, there is a numinous presence in those who have decisive experience of the sacred. There is a sense of otherness in them that evokes awe, amazement, or astonishment. There is no doubt in my mind that people who met Jesus experienced an incredibly strong spiritual presence, a glow. This presence would have also been experienced by the religious authorities as well, but rather than awe, it instilled fear in them, because they knew Jesus was right. They knew he was right, but admitting to that would compromise their power, so they chose to find some way to silence him instead. In the meantime, however, their fear of his spiritual strength also likely made them very, very careful. It wouldn't have been in their best interest to just start stoning him with a crowd of people that were in awe. Jesus was attracting crowds, and so they bore the brunt of his criticism, his shaming of them, until the time was right to bring him down. And in a culture where honor is central to life, honor is everything, shaming those with honor was very, very risky business. But Jesus, this numinous presence, was operating from his why. Why would I bestow honor to those who abuse their power and hurt others? Why, if my core value is love and compassion, would I not challenge every injustice? The Jewish mother in the story asks why and packs her bags in order to go on a journey to a place where the rules are life-giving rather than life-taking. Jesus, after asking why, dreams of a world where God reigns and begins his journey to tell all who would listen to break the life-taking rules and find the way. Now, it is our task as followers of Jesus to ask, why do I do what I do? And why do we do what we do? And what are the core values, the core beliefs that give us as individuals and us as a community abundant life? Forget the plan. Forget the plan and find the dream that creates in you a numinous presence. And then together, perhaps, we can forget the plan. That one's hard. And find the dream that brings Jesus' dream and God's dream to reign on earth.